you mangy dogs. Swab the decks and hoist the sails. The guns on board be needing some proper manning. Pieces of 8 and a fine wench on your arm, if your work be not too shoddy. Careful not to flounder too badly, though, or you may have to dance the hempen jig as we see you to Davy Jones. Japhy, my boy, on with the show.
Shiver me timbers. To our listeners from across all regions of the planet, welcome once again aboard the Robin Hood, flagship to the world's one and only cooperatively inspired charity podcast network, WPRPN. And it is Pirate Radio Podcast's 100th episode. It's a commemorative feature that we're putting together here, middle of the week, a little bit out of the ordinary, really. What happened was Fox out of Maine got together with myself. We decided the two of us would work on launching this and having it put together or recorded for the archives, and that's what we hope to do here over the course of the next hour to 90 minutes or so. Myself, of course, Japhy Rhyder, your Chief Communications Officer, and welcome everyone, as always. So if Fox is standing by, we will bring him into the picture here. He, I guess, was working with getting his new Skype situation straightened out. Fox, do we got you?
As we generally do. Our sound's pretty clear over here in the studio on computer number 2, as computer number 3 and 4 are not operational, and one shit the bed about a month ago. we got issues, you know what I mean, brother?
Yeah, so I'm just looking around to see where we have you here exactly on Skype. I can't seem to find you. It's almost as if I've lost you. So
we don't have any issue. We generally do have functioning voice over IP, and I'm on Skype with you at the moment. So what do you mean?
No, I picked it up actually here on this end, so that's great. So yeah, basically the focus of this following hour to 90 minutes or so, once again, just a recap overview of what we've managed to rack up here over the past a little more than 2 years now, really. We started in January of 2016 with our first show, and that was actually, believe it or not, with the co-founders of Minds.com. Thanks in no small part to the efforts of Satori D, aka Daniel De La Rosa, who helped set that interview up. People can go back, of course, into the archives and work on getting their hands on that one. It's definitely worth checking out and listening to. We've come a long way since then, of course, so a whole range of guests, really, all kinds of different topics too. We really, from the outset, had pretty much committed ourselves to the idea of taking on board a wide range of topics, themes, and guests. Basically, the way our podcast summary overview kind of pitch reads is: looking to have your voice heard? Got a story you think the world needs to know more about? Something the mainstream media has largely ignored. Politics, religion, pop culture, health, activism, lifestyle, and the paranormal. Pretty much anything goes. The more fascinating, pressing, and intriguing, the better. So, for those listening too, if you yourself do have a story you feel has been overlooked and not covered in the mainstream press, which we know, of course, most of us and our listeners, is largely Operation Mockingbird CIA dominated, that we take a largely different approach here. We really are pretty old school when it comes to journalistic integrity and dedication to getting the story out there for the public to themselves make the most of and decide what's really going on behind the scenes when it comes to any of these any of the reports that come across our desk here via the Robin Hood. So, Fox, any shows or guests that you'd like to see us have booked here over the coming months? We've got quite a few interesting interviews lined up, but how do things look from your vantage point out there in Maine as far as all this is concerned?
Well, I've interviewed a substantial number of people in the alternative media over the past 10 years. I've been doing them since I was 15 years old. And I've discovered that a huge, vast portion of them are just doing it for an agenda or doing it to make money. And as of late, I'm actually hard pressed to find people who aren't like that. There's not a lot of people like you and me out there, but I do entertain ideas. Just recently, we had Sherry Wisdom Fisher from American Freedom Radio, or formerly. I don't know if she still does shows over there, but we had her on to talk about some interesting spiritual stuff. She's always kind of into that. And just last Tuesday, I was on with you, brother. But we've been kind of at a slow bit, these days, man. How about you? I've heard some of your recent shows, dude. Very good.
Yeah, we hope to maintain that level of that quality of show production, obviously, as well as just build on the successes that we've established up until this point. It's always, of course, as you well know, Fox, a struggle and an effort to get good, decent quality guests booked, and ones who necessarily, as you say, aren't necessarily all about making money from their efforts per se. It's great if that sort of thing comes our way. We're more than happy to pick up more Patreon supporters, as well as PayPal donations under our mandate. Of course, regular listeners will know half of everything that we manage to attract as far as cash, booty, or plunder is concerned goes directly back to charity, to various worthy
And that's
causes.
why we love you, brother.
Yeah. So it's like you can't win for losing, it seems. If you focus on charity, people think you're communist, and if you're out to talk about making money at any point, then suddenly you're some filthy capitalist. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's why we got the 50-50 split. At this point, frankly, our goal is just simply to cover our operating expenses, which we have not been able to do, truth be told. So with only 6 patrons, that's and it takes a lot to produce those premium items as well. We've chosen not to go the route of charging monthly Patreon fees. Instead, just a per item way of doing things we felt would be best. And we're going to stick to that for now because we just feel it's the fairest way of doing things. Why should anyone be, feel compelled to pay for something when there's no actual product being delivered? All the shows we do here on a weekly basis are free for everyone. So it's just that premium content. We got to find the time to be able to tackle that, which reminds me, one of the points that we're hoping to get out there, have people maybe think about, is how we're looking for more fellow sailors or buccaneers or freebooters or what have you to join us in our high seas digital adventure here
I
via
think next
WPRN.
Tuesday I might have a guest I'll bring on with me. We'll see if I can figure that out.
Somebody with some technical skills, perhaps, or WordPress. We're looking for
Maybe,
those kind of things.
maybe.
Yeah, so anybody with, once again, technical
Oh no.
skills.
Oh, technical skills. No, I have plenty of WordPress skills. But I've got to have valid credentials to get into your WordPress site, brother.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's something we've been trying to do. And, we've been cock blocking pretty much from every angle, it seems, what we've been having to deal with here, frankly. Both with the WordPress via WPRPN.com. A lot of this, strange, inexplicable things where you really wonder what's going on here. Podomatic, same kind of deal, where we can't even edit any of the shows that we upload now. It's gotten that bad, and we've been in touch with the people that run the Podomatic.com outfit, basically, and it's really it's a major head scratcher is all we're left with here. So, which leads us to think more along the lines of something real strange going on for sure. I mean, I don't know how to explain these things, obviously, so it's a mystery. And go ahead.
Oh, nothing. I was gonna say. Speaking of strange, after that incident with our host, who I won't name, but you know what I'm talking about. My phone, like 2 days later, stopped working in the middle of the night with no intervention from me. It won't turn on anymore. That's when I got the laptop up and running. So I know what you mean by strange interference.
Somebody fried your cell phone.
I do believe that. Yeah. I don't know who, but the timing. They say that correlation doesn't imply causality, so I can't name names, but it was very fascinating. It was an $85 phone. It's not just something that's going to stop working overnight.
Yeah, well, that's right. In politics, timing is everything. Even small fry such as ourselves, we're not. What we're doing here is not a really. It's not a major thing, frankly, within the grander scheme of things. But we're certainly letting the world know that we want to have our voices heard and provide a platform for others who are hoping to do the same as well. Speaking of which, and speaking of the numbers game and finding a wider audience, is really great. Last week's show with Al Borealis, that was really hot. Things people often ask us, well, what kind of numbers can we expect to pick up via your what you put together here, and the answer, frankly, and quite honestly, is it all depends on what sort of following you have. That's what we've discovered to this point. So he's got a pretty decent following himself, and we've got over 700 views on YouTube already, and which is great. But really, we like to focus our efforts via Podomatic. That's really where we like to see the traffic redirected, because it's I just checked the earnings we've managed to chalk up here over the course of our 2 years or so running the show via YouTube, and we're not quite in the negative red zone yet, but it's right down to zero. Frankly, they've dialed us right down to fucking zero, if you can believe that. Cheap, crooked sons of bitches. So I was watching it just incrementally ease its way down the amount that we were being credited for. And I'm quite serious when I talk about, I'm not sure if you heard me make this, and it'd be mostly for symbolic reasons more than anything, and just to make a point, that this, like, a joint sort of a claim of sorts, put together, a class action suit or what have you, however it's however you want to frame it in legal terms or parlance, that people banding together, much in the way Styx, was it Six Hexenhammer 666 had talked about. He had some campaign he was running there a few months ago. Same kind of deal. So just basically, it's just people rallying around a cause, and that give us our bloody money, and that we were owed initially because we were up to around 50 cents or something like that, some minuscule crappy amount. It's more the symbolism than anything, and the fact that we were accredited, that amount had been credited to us, but then they basically, what is the word I'm looking for here? Welched. They welched, and have not proven to be good for essentially what they had attributed to us. And I'm sure there's quite a few people out there as well with similar cases. So if you have find yourself in a similar situation, folks, let us know. We want to hear about this. And we'll do all we can here from this end of things to get the word out. If there's any issue you want people to know about, or feel that more wider audience really needs to come to discover and hear about, let us know. That's what we're here for. That's what this is really all about, is just providing a platform and a way of getting your voices heard. So what do you think of that, though? I guess that's just one further campaign that if there was the manpower or woman power or people power.
I think it's what we've been trying to do over here at Zero Radio, formerly Anonymous Radio, Redux, since its inception. It's also why we're not very popular. My philosophy has been just, kick back and give everyone an opportunity to speak, but then we get looked at as communists, which I've actually openly identified as being, but that doesn't mean I'm restricted to one philosophy. I am when I feel like being that day. As a human being, I have the right to change my mind.
That's right. Oh, it's like Walt Whitman said, and people, they do love whoever we are. They like to kind of paint us with a certain brush and put us in a certain box. Walt Whitman famously, on perhaps even more than one occasion, stated, do I contradict myself? I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. So, yeah, I'm vast. I contain multitudes. As you say, you have the right to, if you feel a certain way one day and then perhaps change your mind the next, that's entirely up to you. When it comes to a matter of principles and certain principled issues, that's a little different story. I myself, I really don't have too much time for people that are, flagrantly flaky, and you can see them flipping and flopping around when it comes to these principled issues.
When it comes to issues, they want to keep us divided to different parties and different ideas, when really there is only a few good solutions to certain issues. But, everyone thinks that they have a solution, but yet the problem remains unfixed. I mean, certainly if one person knew the truth, we'd be doing all better right now, yeah? We'd be doing all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the last point. If what exactly?
I'm saying if somebody knew if there was really someone out there whose version of reality was completely accurate, then the world would be a better place, I mean, forget it. It's
No, I think you're talking about objective truth, and assuming that this does exist, that everyone would agree that, oh, look, there's the objective truth. We're all rational beings, so of course we're going to buy into this, this one worldview or religion, philosophy, ideology, what have you. But it's not everybody is, even if that were the case, that there were this objective reality, not everyone, I wouldn't expect everyone to necessarily see it that way, because, people reserve the right to be stupid or irrational. It's like, what can you do? So, the libertarian perspective or view on that generally is hands off, of course, and let them be their own stupid, ignorant people. You try to show them the light, as it were, present them with the information, and if they still decide to reject it or shoot it down, well, it's their choice. You move on and just carry on as resume your just back to how things were. I don't know, snafu perhaps, situation normal, all effed up. So suffer fools gladly, I guess. Yeah, there's just, life is too short, so why waste one's time? But anyways, no, it's great to have you here, Fox, regardless of what others may think. We had a chance to kind of get a feel of where you were coming from, and the captain, he certainly, I guess, if he had any problems with you, he wouldn't have welcomed you on board, obviously. So no, you're free to make yourself at home here on the ship and wherever it is that you feel you may like to roam throughout the Skullport Harbor, as we like to call it. So have you had a chance yet to visit any of the local watering establishments? There's a few smoking bars, I believe, too, kind of Amsterdam-style coffee shops that have been put together in true pirate fashion. Opium really was one of the stimulants of choice back in the day, as far as the pirates were concerned. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
I'm a pothead.
Pot, opium, I mean, hey, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. So just looking at the archives here, folks, we have got basically, once again, the Minds.com co-founders, Bill and John Ottman. They were, show number 1. We got episodes 2 and 3 do not appear in the archives. We got them stored away somewhere on a digital hard drive at one place or another. Episode 4, Helidium Thunder, featuring Greyland Industries, Helidium Thunder, aka Gary Pratt, working on possibly having him back for an unscheduled show we may just archive and record. We had a bit of a scheduling issue with him it was not so long ago that we had some, just got our wires crossed. So rather than, of course, book him and promote the show in a big way, we prefer simply to, we pitched the idea of just pre-recording with him, and he got back to us saying that was fine. We could maybe try that at some point. So we'll see if that comes about, if we manage to connect on that level here or not. And then we go all the way up to actually our 14th show, which was with Gonzo author Todd Brendan Fahey. That was, people want to take a look at that, quite something. He basically has written and studied a lot of investigation research into the history of psychedelia and the CIA's activity, role within the cultivation and the spread of psychedelics throughout the 1960s.
Have you read DMT, The Spirit Molecule?
Is that by Terence McKenna?
I believe. Let me go look. I'll be right back.
Satori D would know this, I'd imagine. Anyways, moving along. We'll come back to that in a second, folks. Episode 15, William Ramsey, Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley, Shadow over Humanity. William's been back now, I think, 3 times. We got him booked again for a show coming up in June. We're going to talk about the Damien Eccles case, the West Memphis 3. I myself don't know too much about what took place there back, how many ever years ago it was now. I guess it was perhaps in the early to mid 1990s. Mr. Eccles happens to find himself out of prison at the moment. William, however, feels that he is guilty as sin.
That would be Dr. Rick Strassman, PhD. Great great book, actual research about, dimethyltryptamine, its effects on the brain with regards to certain spiritual experiences throughout history, as it relates to the development of language, dreams, stuff like that. A lot of crazy shit. You should read it.
Dr. Rick Straussman, yeah, I've heard the name DMT, the spirit molecule. Yeah, it's, I think Japan outlawed magic mushrooms wasn't so long ago, maybe about 15 years ago, as a matter of fact. So who knows when Korea did it, but they would. It's one of the things that's talked about here from time to time. People ask why weed is still so heavily prohibited in South Korea, but not the North. And how ironic is that? Think about it. And the reason is because they never experienced a counterculture here in South Korea. There was no psychedelic or psychedelia, mind-altering, consciousness-expanding movement. So, in fact, that's one of the things that the dictator at the time, Park Chung-hee, 1976, was apparently so afraid of. He did not want the youth of the country to, as what had happened and witnessed in the West with the youth of the day, the hippies, primarily, tune in, turn on, and drop out, as Timothy Leary encouraged them to do. So, that being the case, 1976, yeah, it came down with the hammer fell, and it's pretty draconian and extreme. The laws, some of the most extreme, in fact, in the world. They smoke like chimneys here, of course, and drink like fish. So alcohol is fine. It's heavily promoted and embraced. It's really part of their, I would say, religion, yeah, in many ways. It's a central part of their culture and society. The way that drinking, especially, during dinner or special occasions, even I myself do occasionally imbibe. I don't really like alcohol, but those special certain occasions I will drink. So, but the sooner that we can bring about change here on the southern portion of the peninsula, the better. Once again, I'm not sure. Trump, was he not scheduled to visit Kim Jong-un? Presumably in the DPRK. Maybe they'll be meeting somewhere on neutral ground. Have you heard any more about that at all, Fox?
I've actually been tuning out of mainstream politics quite a bit lately to pursue my own interests. But pot is legal here in Maine and in some parts of the country, but there are a lot of people who still live in that Nixonian mindset. They can't seem to accept that alcohol and cigarettes is worse. Even if they do accept it, they still don't. There's so much cognitive dissonance about it.
Oh, absolutely. Cognitive dissonance is how it's probably best put, really. Just the disconnect from reality, especially for how so long, the lies, the official agenda and the official narrative was being promoted. People are bombarded with this official line propaganda, and they allow themselves to be programmed in that way without ever stopping to question. Along comes a Harvard study, for example, not so long ago, just a few years ago. Actually, I'm not sure if you heard about that or not, and it scientifically proven, folks, that watching these cancer tumors shrink dramatically. Like, wow! But for so
People
long,
just become complacent in their beliefs, and the longer you become complacent in one particular belief or another, the less likely you're going to be able to change your mind on the subject, which is why I always try to keep my mind open to new ideas. Science itself operates this way. Just because science says something is one way doesn't mean they're trying to cram it down your throat. Actually, it's really just a theory.
You're not just complacent in their beliefs, but smug, feeling like a superiority complex. I've got something that you don't, and doesn't that make me special? So, when I think from the standpoint of many people who see what's going on as far as this sacred and holy plant is concerned, that it's here to help people. If only more folks out there would stop and consider these possibilities, reflect on things a
I
little
mean,
more.
was absolutely sabotaged after 14 years of psychotropics, and I still have my moments, but after I'd say now about 2 years of smoking cannabis at a rate of 2 grams a day, average. Granted, there have been a lot of more times. Anyway, but increase in volume, decrease, depending on the week or month. But my brain has healed significantly. I'm starting to think a lot clearly than I used to. And that's one of the many benefits, not just cancer curing, but it can also rewire your mind for more efficiency if you've like lost memories or anyway, I'm going off track. I must have smoked a bit too much before we started, but you get the point, man.
I think so, yes. Uh, Anti-psychiatry is definitely one of the, as well as, hey, pro-psychiatry. If you want to join us here on the show and try to make the case as to why psychiatry is wonderful and more people should seek out help, from at the hands and via uh, these, I guess, men and women in the white smocks, doctor's coats, what have you, as
I
as
would just, I mean, if you do seek help from a psychiatrist, I would just at first assume that they're going to lie to you because 9 times out of 10, that's been my experience. They lie to you about the effects of the drugs, what they do, you know, and even about the quality of your own treatment. No, you're getting better. No, you're not. You're really not. That's not you, brother.
right. I do believe there are some people who clearly do benefit, though. It's quite. I mean, I've known people who benefit, and that when they're not on their medication, they just totally go off the rails and lose it. They're off in some
And that's what I
strange.
like. That's the 1 out of 10. You're right. My aunt is completely schizophrenic, and without her medication, she can't function. So, uh,
You're right. I think where we both agree, that's one point where we agree, and another would be the way that the industry itself just overly drugs and medicates, and they got a product to sell. They got a product to sell. They need more consumers, and that's the unfortunate thing. Daryl Brown out of the UK, of course, joined us. That was our Bedlam in the UK episode. Just checking the number here, I guess 93. So that was quite a conversation that we managed to have. As always, of course, things were in post production cleaned up a lot more, really made for a lot more kind of smooth, flowing conversation. But he had a lot of great points and a lot of great information. So we really encourage people, if you're interested in this subject, to check that out via podomatic.com, where we have our shows archived. We're also, speaking of which, making a transition now, working on spending more time over on archive.org, folks. So we got an account over there and are working on getting more shows uploaded. We've got about 3 or 4 now as it is. So, and with this cock blocking that we see taking place, or we feel is occurring over via Podomatic, because they just can't get their act together. Something's going on where either they're just incompetent, or somebody is actively screwing us over. So, whichever is the case, it's not good, of course, and does not reflect well on their operation, in which case we'll happily go with the free service that archive.org offers and get our shows put up online over there. Why not? They got a good thing going over there for sure. So, I mean, with Podomatic, it's kind of neat to see your show going up in the rankings every week. That's kind of neat, or down. So we've managed at various occasions. I think we actually broke through the top 10 in society and culture at one or two different points. So that was really kind of cool. But it's an ongoing struggle. You always try to get better numbers out there, of course, and have more people check out what it is you're putting together. Just there's so much competition, though, of course, too, as everyone naturally understands that you've got to really have a unique and special, I guess, brand, as well as way of delivering the information. And there's so much that goes in the nuts and bolts promoting your guest, as well as, I mean, my job as a host. A lot of pressure here on this end. Let's not kid ourselves. And that's one of the things I've been working on doing here over the course of the 2 years plus now. Really, we've been in operation, improving my delivery, trying to not stutter or stumble as much, and really, stay on point, as well as try to, with respect to the guests, when we have them here on board, really work on coming at things from an angle or way that maybe they haven't, if they've been interviewed on other occasions, that listeners' talking points and areas that have not been explored. So there's just really so much, though, as hopefully once again people can appreciate, goes into putting an operation like this together. We do encourage people to, of course, drop by the WPRPN.com FAQ page. This, once again, just to be clear, if people were not aware, Pirate Radio Podcasts, we're just a flagship for what we view as a lot wider armada of somewhat like-minded individuals and operations with respect to their podcasting aspirations and so forth. So it's great to do the networking that we are, for sure, and that's one of the reasons we managed to, I guess, connect with you over there in Maine, Fox. We have not had you booked yet for a formal show yet, have we? We should set something like that up. How would you like to we'll work that out, I guess, here. Maybe after today's conversation, it'd be a great way of introducing you, I suppose, to our weekend audience. How does that sound?
It sounds fantastic. Give me a time to do that thing, and I'll do that thing, brother.
Well, the 420 weed roundtable that we talked about, that I know in the past. Hopefully you still manage to make a note of that and remember our conversation.
I never forget about that. You know me.
Yeah. So as well, let's not forget, as always, every year we try to, in November, have an anonymous roundtable. I'm not sure if we did this past year, but that might be another opportunity. The midweek muck around, though, too. Let's not forget. That's something where the two of us are working on pooling our resources and, dare I say, talents together in producing this weekly, I guess it's a Tuesday in the States, Wednesday here in Asia, show that's going to run for an hour each and every week, where we'll talk about the news of the day. There will be no formal guests, per se, much as is the case with today's presentation. But we'll just talk about what's going on out there in the world, as far as some of the top stories, as well as some of the maybe ones that have not been addressed or talked about within the mainstream press, and leaving us to wonder why that's the case, why they've been overlooked and ignored. So we're also working on making the transition to D-Live, which ties into Steam It. We want to get off of YouTube, folks. YouTube sucks. Don't let them.
Yeah, we've lost any ability to upload anything to YouTube anymore. It says something authentication expired or whatever. I have no idea, but I signed up for Steemit and they took all my information, didn't give me an account, and just put me on a list. So I'm kind of cynical now. D Live, we're on with D Live, but I need a Steam account to upload anything to that. So that's also out of the question. But what do you think? What are you looking at for alternatives to YouTube, like legitimate alternatives?
Well, there's only D Live right now, as far as I can see. Uh, Quite honestly, and that don't let's not forget that ties into the whole that business of the Steam It and Steam Power and whatnot. So I like the idea of being rewarded for our efforts, So and where that takes us and what that leads to, who knows? But it is great to see those rewards coming in. And once again, we do split the booty 50-50 right down the middle. Uh, Half of going directly to charity, the other half we just want to have cover our operating expenses. Once we manage to break even, then we can maybe actually, who knows what we'll be capable of achieving at that point. But yeah, that's about it really. BitChute, I've got an account there, as well as I think it's a personal thing, as well as there's a network account perhaps too. But either way, I don't think you're able to stream via BitChute at the moment, or is that not the case? What's the deal there? Any idea?
Haven't looked into BitChute yet. I was on Steam and D Live today trying to establish accounts. But it is frightening, my friend, the state of the true alternative media. I define alternative media as individuals with cameras with a desire to be the change they want to see. And if you're just someone, small fries like us, who are just trying to make a difference, it's really getting difficult. You know what I mean, man? YouTube is really making it hard if you're not already a part of the established algorithm, if you're not already huge, big, you know?
Right. Uh, no, I hear you loud and clear. So as far as Steam it goes, uh, you need I think a cell phone, what I'd like to call spy phones, and it comes up either like with a QR code or some kind of blockchain sort of deal. Same thing as what we're seeing over on Minds.com now. I'm not sure if you've been watching or following the latest developments over the past day or two, but
I've
big
just been
changes.
bypassing all that phone stuff by using my Google Voice account. But what's going on over on Minds? I'd like to hear about that, dude. Continue.
Well, it's a bit of a makeover for sure. I could pop over there right now if you want, but the layout and design has been um, they've been tweaking that so that earlier, at least from a off of a computer, a desktop operation, that you would have your options, news feed, channels, videos, images, blogs, groups. Actually, hang on. Certain things would appear on the side. They've now taken that so they're on the top of your page. In addition to that, when you click on, for example, the wallet, it's now they've shifted over or made the transition to tokens. So this is like a Minds token, is what we're looking at here. And we just received a reward. Oh, this is kind of cool. Now here's the thing. Somebody just gave us, and this half of this, of course, let's not forget, this goes directly to charity. I mean, it equivalent to what, $13 or something like that. So somebody just gave us, uh, you know,
So,
thir- some decent chunk of change here that we can help to redistribute and retarget with respect to charity. So that's great.
so you're not saying that Minds is becoming at all corporate, though?
I really don't know. I think it was founded as some kind of company of some sort, but it's also open sourced. There's no censorship. They've really, and I'm going to do a screen share deal with you here. Hopefully, you're set up to, um, you can take a look at what I'm doing here as far as this is concerned. Are you able to see the screen share?
Oh, yeah, I see it loud. I see it. It looks a little different, but not that much different, so that's good.
Well, instead of points, we got tokens here now. So this was earlier, I guess it would have been 120 some thousand points. Now it's 123 tokens, which each token is said to be the equivalent of 1,000 views. So they have all these different options here now. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve for people. I looked at it just last night thinking, what the hell is going on? So I think they've got some sort of blockchain deal here. It says on-chain or off-chain. The on-chain payments will be published to the public blockchain and require a small ETH gas fee. I guess that's Ethereum. You can set your own private keys or use a client such as MetaMask. This is something that, I don't know, it's going to take some work. But another small thing I noticed too is these donations are made and I don't know who's making them. They're completely anonymous now. It says it's an off-chain donation or contribution, which is great. We'd like to thank whoever was behind this, but we have no way of deciphering or determining who that was. Let me just say, though, before we get too carried away here and lose track of where we're at, we would like to thank viaminds.com, and forgive us if we're missing out on anyone, because that we really did. We want to acknowledge and give a shout out to everyone who has been helpful here in contributing to our charity efforts over the past year or two or what have you. EFG is one of the channels that we like to give a big thanks to. EFG, Minds Plus, Minds Gaming, Klee 461, that's Karen Lee, who's actually one of our Patreon supporters as well, a very beautiful soul, and Alice W, and I'm not sure exactly who else. Like I said, likely missing out or forgetting about somebody here. So, but yeah, that's just the way it goes. In fact, one of the things, I know you talk about not being interested in money or this or that, but let's not forget, why not? The pirate ship here and the operation that we have running via the Robin Hood, the captain, under the ship's articles, all of the crew are to be in some way taken care of, basically, to whatever extent we can manage. So we'd be more than happy to send you some of these Minds tokens for your efforts and contributions to the overall operation. That's even if only as a symbolic gesture, or if you'll excuse the pun, a token gesture. Because that's once again tweaking that the Marxist axiom, from each according to their abilities, to each according to their needs. The way we've revamped that simply is from each according to their abilities, to each according to their efforts, or, if you will, contributions. Windows has just crashed. Well, that's great. That's just wonderful. Let's see now if Skype has crashed. Fox, are you still there?
Yeah, dude, I'm here.
Oh, that's great. So Windows has just crashed. I'm not sure what's going on. Stand by. Hopefully the whole system doesn't crash.
You gotta get yourself set up with Linux, G.
Yeah. No, I hear you there. Hey, if you're willing to walk me through as far as a tutorial is concerned, that'd be great. I've just heard stories about Linux or Linux, as you say potato, I say potato, how that it's an operating system, I guess, that how it works. It's kind of complicated, isn't it? It's not really the easiest thing in the world to.
Yeah, what I do, it would be easy, but what you do, it would be fucking complicated.
Why is that?
Because you're working with a lot more shit, and that means you have a lot more that you're gonna have to translate into Linux. Me, I'm just downloading a couple of apps and running it down low, untraceable. So, like your shit, like what do you use for software?
Oh, I don't know. Really, well, we got Windows 7. None of this Windows 10 business, obviously. Forget that. So, and
Uh, like what programs are you using?
oh, we got the OBS here to help. It's what we use to stream out the show every week. We got Skype, of course, and Discord, which is really great.
Like Skype, for example, you would have to date back to 4.5, Skype 4.5, and you'd have to get used to the old interface, and you wouldn't be able to share screens and shit, and there would be some issues like that, for example. Then you might have to learn how to do some command prompt also.
Is that the
Yeah.
same? Is that the same for all Linux users?
Depending on your OS and depending on what you intend to use it for, because that's the whole point of Linux, is you use it, it doesn't use you. But the problem with that is it doesn't quite come pre-configured. You have to decide how you're going to set it up. So there is some hacking skills that come involved.
Yeah, well, as far as that goes, you can forget about it. Where where I'm concerned, as far as I can, I don't know, I could. I'm not sure what I'd be able to hack. Nothing. I could. Uh,
Well, there's more user-friendly versions like Ubuntu and Mint. Uh, so I don't know. It depends, dude.
oh, Ubuntu. Yeah, we've heard. I've heard of that. So I'm not sure. Do you say Mint as well?
Yeah, Mint.
Ubuntu.
Mint is pretty cool. There's basically also Peppermint, but that's up there. There's a bunch of different spin-offs of each OS.
All right. Well, let's talk more about this in the after show. I'd be happy to do that. In the meantime, and there we go. Windows 7 has crashed again. I'm not sure what to make of that. But episode 16 was where we managed to connect with Pirate Larry, and we talked about his music career, of course, and his life down in Baja, California. He came on board actually as a co-host. I'm not sure if you know this or not, Fox, but he helped to ride shotgun here and was a regular feature up in the Crow's Nest for about 25 shows or so, is what I'm guessing. And it got to the point ultimately where we're not really sure what happened. There's a number of different rumors and almost like legends, I guess you could say, that are out there kind of floating around, people speculating on his fate or whereabouts. Some say that he fell from the Crow's Nest into the ocean and down into Davy Jones's locker at the bottom of the seas. Uh, this is funny, getting these notifications with Windows constantly crashing. I'll reboot here after the show, I suppose. So we'll just leave that aside for now. It's the third time it's done it. Going back though to Pirate Larry, there was another story that had him in an altercation with a rival crew. I guess an outfit that they were not particularly team players, as things go, and he was accosted outside a local watering hole here in Skullport Harbor, and that's really the last that was, as some reports or stories are concerned, that the last that was seen of him. Thirdly, there's a possibility that he may have been seduced by a mermaid, actually. So, with her siren song wailing away there a uh, out on a rock, up, I guess, in the middle of who knows where. So I'm not sure. Would that be so bad to fall victim or prey to a mermaid? Never really thought about that one. Perhaps not. But then again, who really knows? So, but big thanks, of course, to Pirate Larry for his efforts and contributions. Riding shotgun there for the 25 shows or so. We're just kind of ballparking things, folks. He really was a colorful figure and a welcome addition to our production. Seth Haven, courtesy of Contrue.com, join us for episode 19. We're hoping to have him back at some point too, of course. So, and have been in touch with Seth from time to time, as well as one of his friends and fellow mateys, Tyranny Unmasked, aka James West. So we'll see how that plays out. James, of course, would be another great guest that we could have formally booked here. We did have him at one point or another for one show, so we'd like to definitely get him back too. David Allen Zimbeck, cryptocurrencies, smart contracts, digital bonds. Speaking of which, BitBay. We managed over the course of our Operation Secret Santa campaign to pick up, I guess it's what's said to be around $200 in virtual currency, if you can believe that. So that's really great. The problem is now what to do with it. We're happy to pass that along to anybody out there who is interested in maybe getting together. We'll see what we can do from this end of things and see that it finds its way to charitable hands. Of course, speaking of Operation Secret Santa, that was a really kind of big deal over the Christmas season. We're hoping to repeat that again coming up this December. Going to do everything we can to be as prepared and have everything in place to our best abilities, the best we can manage with the talent portion of things, as well as people making donations and having, a telethon of sorts with donated goods being raffled off or bid on or what have you. So definitely looking forward to that. It's a lot of work. Maybe we'll start, in fact, to get the ball rolling on Operation Secret Santa 2018 in September and see where that leads us. So yeah, BitBay, David Allen Zimbeck, great charitable donation from him. John Ford, that's one of our main charitable causes, in fact, that we have here, courtesy of the Robin Hood. He's someone that we really believe has not received a fair shake. Of course, he's been locked up and committed to a psychiatric asylum for over 20 years now. Someone who we believe needs to have more people hear about his story, of course. So we encourage everyone to check out the archives and really give a listen to the shows and see what it is that you're able to learn or discover about the case, and hopefully come to conclude and realize, as we here ourselves have, that John really got railroaded in a big way. So we'll just leave it at that, and people can check out the archives via Podomatic.com. Ken Thomas, the godfather of parapolitics, episode 23. That was a really great show, of course, as all of our interviews have been, frankly. And we don't hold any of our guests in a light which is any different from the next. Everyone really is, it's an equal approach here as far as people are concerned, with the stories that they have to offer and share, and where they're coming at the issues from, the stories that they have to that they want to get out to the public in a wider way. So everyone is really treated equally here as we can best manage. So that reminds me, Adam Go Rightly, speaking of Ken Thomas, and Discordianism and so forth. That he was one of the earlier interviews that we had back there we didn't talk about. But we got to keep things moving along here if we're going to stick to the 90-minute time frame that we've got laid out for us. Fox, you're good to go as far as the after show is concerned. I guess you don't have too much more on tap for the rest of the evening. Is that right?
Dude, you could go for another 2 hours and I'd be just fine with that. I'd just hit my pipe a few more times and keep on going, brother. That's how I roll.
Okay, well, we're just going to do our best here to keep rolling along and giving a kind of rundown overview of the shows that we managed to log here over the course of the past couple of years. Korean Shamanism, episode 27. Eunmi Pong joined us in the after show. I think we might have actually uploaded that to Patreon for our premium supporters and subscribers. So they got Aaron. We were joined actually. The main event had a colleague of ours here via Korea, and Aaron Wadsworth was featured the first 90 minutes or so, and then Eunmi Pong, a nationally renowned Korean shaman, decided to drop by and connect with us in the after show. That led to an interesting visit where I myself actually was invited to witness and partake in a shaman initiation ceremony, which is really rare and very special, very honored, and was just a beautiful experience, quite spooky in some ways, for sure, the way that you saw this transformation overcome this young lady who Eunmi had said was to become a shaman. It was her destiny. She had first met the young lady who had been experiencing a rather serious illness. So her diagnosis was that she become a shaman. That would cure her of her illness. If she didn't, there would be pretty serious consequences in store. So I'm not sure where the illness stands at the present moment, but she was did manage to become a shaman via the ceremony, the initiation ceremony, and once again, that's something in fact we could offer as Patreon content, I suppose. I've got some great videos there uploaded to G Drive, along with photos and the like, but it was amazing. So her prognosis for me was stick to my job, stick to the wife, and keep plugging away with this broadcasting project, which how she knew about that exactly, I don't know. This is not Eunmi Pong herself, but rather the novice shaman who I laid down the $50, as is standard practice here in Korea, when consulting with a shaman or seer, and they basically read your future by just looking at you and getting a vibe, I guess, or feel of what sort of course it is that you have been set out upon, and how it is that you would be best suited in following, as far as, once again, work or relationships, different projects that people find themselves a part of, or what have you. So, but that was a deal with her. Yeah, stick with your job, stick with the wife, and keep plugging away with this broadcasting project. So, job, once again, of course, people sometimes ask about that, but I myself been working here in the capacity of a professional elf for the past 16 years now, so we won't really get into that present moment, as we got to keep rolling along, but just throw that out there in case people were not aware of what sort of line of work I find myself currently engaged in. Minds Gaming, episode 31. Always great to have Mike drop by. He's a real great guy, chorus, integral part of our Operation Secret Santa project. He 2 years in a row now he's dropped by and talked about the various charity projects that he's promoted. You know, people, I think it's donate. I can't remember the exact URLs at the moment, but Coats for Kids, I think, might be one of them, as well as a sort of a mentoring program, people with musical talents that they encourage people, like a Big Brothers, Big Sisters kind of deal, where they just, you know, try to do what they can. I think this is all run through the social services, which I'm not sure if they call that in Canada. It's like welfare services or what have you. Sometimes things don't quite translate, or it's just a different language, you know, between Canada and the U.S., of course, and then Korea. Well, and myself too, of course, the last time I was even back in Canada was 10 years ago now, so a little bit out of touch, a little bit out of the loop, folks. But anyways, yeah, Mike, real great project there. Big shout out we've got a few people that have joined us here via YouTube as well too, so let's not forget them. Thanks for dropping by and lending an ear to what it is that we have to offer this week. If you do have any comments, be sure to let us know. Any questions or what have you. How are things looking from your end there, Fox, as we continue to rattle off and comment on the shows that we've managed to log here over the past couple of years?
I think things are fantastic, man. Glad to be here. So how do you feel about the state of American politics, generally speaking? I've been dropping in and out. I noticed the stock market is kind of not looking good at the moment, but otherwise things do seem pretty stable. Ooh, nice pick, man. I was just thinking about that. A lot has changed since then, eh?
Yeah, I don't really want to get into that today. I don't mind talking about it, of course, but the whole business of, I know because we're doing a screen share here, September 11th, and the meme here that every year we look for someone if they can update things. It says here 14 years ago, your entire country got hijacked. This time around, of course, it'll be, 17 years ago, so we'll need someone to take care of that if they're able to. I myself just don't have the technical ability to do that. I know it's not that complicated, but I just need a quick little tutorial or walkthrough. So you can only handle so many things here from where I'm situated, and only so many skills that people have, core skills or abilities, talents that they're able to bring to the table. But that's the idea here too. Let's not forget, with WPRPN, the wider network, once again, Pirate Radio Podcast, just the flagship, folks.
You up with Google Voice, my brother. Google Voice, not Google Voice, Hangouts. Have you used Hangouts for broadcasting?
We go by what the guest is comfortable with, and we've only done that once or twice. We'd be open to that, and in fact, if you want to run a little bit of in fact, the after show, what do we
have? We can talk about that in the future. Yeah, I'll hook you up.
Well, let's do the after show. Appear.in just got notification recently. It's really unfortunate because we had kind of scooped up a decent number of really choice URLs via Appear.in, and now it comes out just recently. And this kind of goes along the lines of what YouTube has done, these fuckers, with the bait and switch. The bait and switch, where we had, once again, laid claim and staked out our territory as far as these URLs were concerned. They come along now and say, oh, well, we've kind of changed we've shifted around the goalposts here, and actually you're only allowed to have one of these now, unless you want to sign up and pay money, and then we'll give you like a few more, and if you pay more money, we'll give you more, and so on and so forth. So, I don't know. Screw those guys. What I will say, though, about subdomains, that what we offer via WPRPN are, to our guests, complimentary network URL subdomains, completely free. Some people have taken advantage of this. I know you'd like to do so in a more proactive way. We actually just took a few minutes and set you up on that front, actually got you going there. As far as that's concerned, it only takes a few minutes with a bit of a kind of blog synopsis overview of who, Anonymous Radio Redux is. Although I guess you've done a name change, so we'll have to do something about that maybe. But and hoping as well too, to tell you the truth, do something a little more as far as, and have, because it only takes a few minutes, but we're so bloody swamped here. Hate to sound like a broken record, but we just need more help. People just even like an hour or two every week, and that would be just totally awesome, of course.
I can help you manage your stuff. I'm here, man. I'm here for you, dude. We love you over here, man.
That's great. That's a moral morale. That's a big boost to the ship's morale, and yeah, we're happy to hear that. So, but let's go do Google Hangouts in the after show, and make the most of what we've got here with because I've got a little bit of time here today as well too before I've got to head off and do my first class. So, but we'll probably do another September 11th special, of course, as always. We'll do another probably Kennedy JFK show as well too, because these were big. These were Hegelian, these dialectical. They were, seized upon, of course, by the powers that be. Every time it's like, Hillary Clinton has talked about this. Rahm Emanuel, I guess, famously, as well as many politicians on the record as stating that you never let a conspiracy just go by the wayside. You cash in every, I should say rather, crisis. Any crisis, you basically
Dude,
make the most of.
the New American Century.
Oh, fuck yeah. Now,
Rebuilding
Bolton,
American defenses. They predicted that shit a year before it was going to happen on, what was it, page 52, page 57? One of those two pages. So yeah, and then some money went missing. That's what people need to pay attention to. That's it. There's just no denying that.
Yeah, and now Bolton has been brought on board. I'm not sure in what capacity, but he's a neocon hawk, of course. Everybody, it's the whole, it's no secret. And Trump, I mean, you asked my opinion on these things. I don't want to get too sidetracked, not today at least, but it's the same view that a lot of people have with respect. I mean, the 28 pages, we don't hear much coming out of Trump's mouth these days about the 28 pages. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and the business that he's done with Israel over the years as far as real estate developments are concerned, this illegal settlements and housing, and I guess when I say illegal, that would be within the context of international law. But, yeah, I mean, September 11th, of course, it was an inside job, man. I mean, cui bono,
Yeah,
it's like any crime. It's such bullshit,
it just
obviously.
comes down to oil and control, man. That's all it is. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah,
It's a military-industrial complex. It's about keeping the economy going, man. Cause, well, dude, it's how our country's set up, man. It's a corporation. It's just a business, and if you live here, in a way, you're just an employee paying taxes.
nothing personal, just business, just business, nothing personal. So, Gypsy Lauren McDonald, episode 33, good old Masonic number 33. Don't think she's a Mason though, but September 2016. So it was great speaking with her. That, of course, being Pirate Larry's daughter, really beautiful young lady. And how about this picture? Jefferson City, exclusive breaking news with Carolyn Rose Goida. So, of quite a picture of, how she was set up there in Jefferson City, and set up in a couple of ways. One, the way that she had her sanctuary house there in place for the vets, helping them with PTSD, as well as kids too, I believe. Autistic children, I think, might have been one of the programs that she was developing. She had animals, pets, one dog, along with various cats, therapy cats that were good with the kids and the vets, of course. And there's a whole story there where the powers that be, they came in and just like, we don't want this in our neighborhood. We'd prefer to have the drug dealers and the prostitutes. This is just, what are you doing? You're driving our real estate prices down, or what, cutting into our something's just not right here. So really a shame, very sad, of course, not reflecting well on Jefferson City. A real tragedy. Just a reflection of the corruption, frankly. So people can go into the archives and check that out. Carolyn has got a really amazing story to share there. We had hoped that somebody who, with documentary filmmaking skills, would take a look at her story and get behind promoting what it was that she's had to endure to this point. She currently is located somewhere outside the city limits, having to relocate, forcibly relocated outside of Jefferson City, and making the most of things, real great spirits, trying to remain positive, and she's a fighter for sure. She's a real, she's a real class act, and someone that we, as she's somebody that, once again, that we support from a charitable standpoint as well too. Every year, $50 in Secret Santa donations going out to her via the pot that we put together, collected the war chest, or kitty, as it were. So people definitely encouraged to check that out in the archives. A little bit of Pirate Radio News, Show 6, so a bit of a kind of midweek muck-around style deal there that we've been working on putting together in October 2016 with Pirate Larry. Angel Espino, the Jackal. Recently in touch with Angel. His health is not really in the best state, unfortunately. It'd be great to have him come back on the show. He's always welcome, of course. So he being the brain behind PSNradio.com and Skywatchers Radio. So best of luck to Angel. Hope to hear from him as soon as, well, we actually just spoke to him last week. So, and if we can have any updates or more kind of positive news from his end of things, that'd be great. But best of luck to Angel. You're, in our thoughts and prayers. Episode 35, Mine's Indie Music Special. We're up now, to our 4th installment, I guess, coming up. Who knows when exactly, but what we do there, folks, is reach out and work on recruiting musical talent via minds.com. Fox, if you know anyone via Minds, someone has a channel together over there and that they managed to produce or have recorded decent quality indie music, we want to hear from them. We're happy to promote them and do what we can to getting their music out there and heard more by the masses. So food for thought as far as that goes. Episode 4, not sure when that's going to be coming up, or I should say installment number 4 of our Minds World Indie Music Showcase. Definitely looking forward to it. 36, Tyranny Unmasked, episode 36. James West, he comes at things from 2 different angles, including not only just political analysis of the situation in the Middle East. Not a huge fan of the neocons, I don't think, nor is really any human with a conscience, I would say, frankly, because I don't see how. Yeah, geez. Yeah, it's just, but he does some great analysis as far as Syria, the neocons are concerned. He also has an interest in UFOs and the world of ufology, so it's always great to talk to him and hear about how things are going with him. I think he's now recently moved back to Texas, so if you manage to hear this, James, definitely we'll hopefully talk soon and be able to put another show together before too long. Our Halloween special, episode 37. That was really quite something. I think we've actually had this lady back a couple of times now, Teresa Clayton, a poet, as well as I guess you would say, practicing witch. What that means exactly, I'm still not too clear, other than someone who embraces pagan ideals. And when I say pagan, originally all that word meant was country person. If you look at the literal translation, just some country person, not some sophisticated urban insider, but a bumpkin, basically, just really uneducated. Some might say ignorant, but I wouldn't. Some people who just practice the old ways as far as their relationship and connection with the earth is concerned. And as Al Borealis talked about in our last episode just this past week, movement of the seasons and the sun and the moon and all that kind of good stuff. So with a few little magic spells thrown into the mix. Episode 39, muckraker journalist Mary Carmel. She was quite a handful, to say the least. A very energetic individual. Quite opinionated. Very opinionated. Very passionate. And I don't know. It was a one-time kind of deal, I guess. But she had a lot to bring to the table, and all these shows, hers is no different than the rest. Definitely worth checking out and listening to. If you want to, you were asking earlier, Fox, about politics and so forth in America. Well, she had a lot of thoughts on the matter. I think she was a big Trump, in fact, as I recall, cheerleader or booster. So, a lot of people, I think, in the lead up to the election, there was a lot of reason perhaps to support Trump. As with all good politicians, though, or you might even say sneaky, they kind of they tell the listeners what they want to hear, don't they? It's like honey to the ears. So, what do you expect? Any politician, of course, they're going to tell you whatever it is they think you want to hear. And do they manage to actually live up to the things that they promise? Sometimes, but all too often it seems they let the public down. That's just the way it goes, folks. Won't get fooled again, or inevitably find yourself getting fooled, time and time again. I like to make the analogy or comparison to the way that with Charlie Brown, if people that are familiar with the comic strip series that Charles Schultz put together, Lucy and the football, every football season. Charlie Brown coming along to kick the ball. Lucy promising, oh, well, this time, don't worry, I won't pull it away. I won't make you look like a fool so that you do a backward somersault and fall, crash down on your head and look like a complete idiot, of course. I promise I won't do it. He takes her word for it, goes running up to the ball, ready to kick it, and lo and behold, what does she do? She pulls the ball away. So, fooled you again, I guess, Charlie Brown. JFK, episode 40, that was pretty cool. A really kind of neat timing with that one. So, round table, I believe was it a round table? Okay, we had Rob Clark from the Lone Gunman there. That was great. So, yeah, he kind kind of conservative, really, with a lot of different thoughts as far as JFK is concerned. And, for good reason. As far as you got to be careful with what it is that you buy into, frankly. At least I know that's how I approach things. Very skeptical, open-minded, but skeptical. And, I dig science, but I'm not some cultist, as some people are with the scientism. The way that they're just so, it's weird and kind of creepy. So the way they just put their blinders on to the point where they're not open to anything else at all, frankly. But as far as the conspiracy surrounding JFK, there's, I think, very few people these days who doubt that there was not a conspiracy. Of course there was. Once again, as with September 11th, cui bono? Who benefits? So, we missed out on 41. I think there was some technical issues. The guest didn't show. And that's one of the things, too, folks, running an operation like this. On occasion, the guest does not show. We try to produce 90-minute streaming live production every week. That is our promise to our listeners. We're not always able to accomplish that, and that's just the way it goes, unfortunately. Fox, I know you're probably, once again, you're well aware of what it takes, all the logistics and effort into having a show put together every week.
Yeah, and now we're starting to deal with the best parts of making it there, to where we do have a significant enough following anyway, which is, trolling. We're getting trolled a lot. We're getting a lot of weird, sketchy, negative commentary. But, you learn to deal with that by just letting it happen. It's kind of hard to respond to it after a while. But yeah, dude, definitely. It does pay off though, because we are trying to create a community, an atmosphere, and an alternative in radio in an area where there isn't a lot going on the airwaves.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for you to connect with Al, the host of Forum Borealis, just if only to say hi, and ahoy to a fellow matey. He kind of dug the whole idea as I laid it out to him, this business of being in the digital underground. We're not Red Ice Radio, we're not Alex Jones or the Young Turks or any of these other bigger, more established names. Some of the whales that have recently joined Minds.com and are thrown out there into the spotlight, really. And for the most case, I would say deservedly so. These people are really bright. They produce just an amazing amount of content. Their analysis, almost on a daily basis. Styx Hexenhammer is one individual that comes to mind. The way that he breaks things down is, the guy's got to have an IQ that's completely off the scales, of course. Black Pigeon Speaks, Sargon of Akkad. I'm not sure who. There's a few others. Lauren Southern over on Minds.com now. I'm not sure if you heard of her. She was recently banned from entering the UK. That was big news. Then there's the whole Dankula business with the Sig Heiling, what is it, Pug? It's total parody, of course. Hashtag gas the Jews. And here he is potentially facing a jail sentence. So that's the kind of world that we live in, where freedom of speech is, there's a war. There's a war on humanity, full spectrum dominance via things like now this 5G, what some are calling a kill grid of sorts. Very much the Matrix, though, to a large extent, is what we find ourselves living in. Control and command. You can't do anything, frankly, and that's the way they want it with the Internet of Things. You won't even be able to take a crap without it being on the blockchain, probably. Or having some CCTV surveillance conducted in any of your affairs, whatever they happen to be. So, for the most mundane and minute to, the although I must say there are some probably good things regarding the blockchain, positive things, of course. So I'm not just totally, like, don't get me wrong, my take on, I'm not really bashing it either. But I guess there's pros and cons to everything. But this business of freedom of speech and censorship, like, that's a big deal. Have you heard? I know this is a little bit off track, and you were asking about current events and whatnot, and we really had scheduled or billed and booked this as a anniversary commemorative with a focus or special look at the shows that we've archived here over the past couple of years, courtesy of Pirate Radio Podcasts. But what's this recent business that came out now? First of all, there's if you want to spend a couple minutes on this, that's fine. Then we can hopefully try to rattle off as many of the shows as we can here. God only knows how long this will take. I'm not sure if we'll have to cut it short or not. But I can see us now going about 2 hours, frankly, the way that we're kind of the trajectory that we've set ourselves out upon here. This omnibus legislation, for one, and then this cloud business where it's some sort of intelligence sharing, or what's going on there exactly as far as the Fourth Amendment is concerned, and just kind of, the U.S. agreeing now through this, because I haven't really looked into it too much. Do you hear about this, though, where they're just going to hand information and private details on people over to foreign entities, including England, the UK, and the like? Did you pick up on that at all? Or
I have not. Dude, our whole culture is like, we are at the fascist end of consumerism at this point, and I think after testing the waters, as our government has been doing for the past 15 years, they'll pass whatever surveillance law under the name of tracking for the NSA, national security, marketing. Dude, we're fucked.
Yeah, because you just never know. You might be a terrorist. And then, of course, it all comes down to how this business of terrorism is defined, and how the powers that be, really, right from the get-go, it was to cast such a wide enough net.
Think about why that is. Like, terrorism, the idea of terrorism is being used to perpetuate an endless war in the Middle East, which in itself creates terrorism. Just by our presence being there, we create terrorism. So, we're doing it for oil or something. It's going to be more than that. A lot fucking more than that. But you've got to ask yourself who stands to gain from that right now.
Yeah, I get it loud and clear. So, yeah, when we do it, no, when someone else does it, it's terrorism. And when I say by we, I mean the state. When we do it, it's just foreign policy. So just don't worry about it. Look the other way when we bomb villages and murder how many countless people. And with this drone program, I haven't really followed that too closely, but there were reports of, Obama was bad enough. He was even worse than Bush 43, Skull and Bones 43. But now I guess Trump has even taken it a stage further, supposedly. So, I'm just, all I can say, glad I don't live in the Middle East. Other than Israel, it seems they want to just bomb every other country pretty much within the region, that and Saudi Arabia. And this business of the greater Israel agenda under, things through PNAC and the neocon vision of how the Middle East should look and function over the coming, I guess, century. So, moving along, Esoteric Washington, episode 42, and we have got this gentleman booked for a return appearance, which is really great. So, we'll be hearing more back from Robert Homrich is his name, actually, and looking forward to that. Just the latest updates, see how things are going with him. He is coming up, I believe, in well, this next month, as a matter of fact. If I'm to check the schedule here, 2018, see who we've got definitively penciled in. Let's not, just to remind listeners too, we are looking for guests as always. So if you know of someone out there with a story to share, someone who maybe has done podcasts in the past, maybe they have not, that's fine. Maybe they've got a book, maybe they don't. It all really depends on whether or not we can have a decent quality conversation for around 90 minutes or so, and that's really all that frankly matters. Decent quality conversation, producing intriguing, cutting edge content that which otherwise people would have no idea about. So it is important. Our role here, our function as Fifth Estate independent underground alternative journalists, is to keep that free flow of information and ideas going. We might just be a small little component, of course, but that's
Hey, bro.
you're down with that, or not?
Well, by calling yourself the Fifth Estate, you technically identify as being part of the state, but I don't think that's what you meant. So it's all good, homeboy.
Well, we'll talk about that more later, I guess. Maybe I'll have to reform my my thoughts or delivery.
We
But
love you, bro.
by Fifth Estate, yeah, I simply mean alternative, frankly, and outside the mainstream. So, yeah, we've got, it looks like, indeed, what am I seeing? No, well, Peter Daly is coming back. Robert Morningstar, there's a big name, a former, I think he appeared with Art Bell several occasions, I seem to recall. He was a great guest. I'd have to go back into the Art Bell archives, but he seems quite keen and chomping at the bit. Also someone who, in speaking to Al Borealis just last week, as it turns out, he himself has been working on connecting with. So maybe we can help facilitate that as an intermediary and get Robert back in touch with Al and see that they're good to go. They kind of seem to have got their wires crossed there a little bit. May, there we go. It's the first week of May, and the reason it was because that being May 1st, the birth date supposedly of the Illuminati, and that date having a real major significance as far as a lot of different things are concerned. Conspiracy-wise, Robert Homrich, first week of May. Looking forward to that. We got to move along here, though, and pick up the pace, or we're going to get bogged down. Secret Santa, Justice for Michelle. I mean, people just have to go back into the archives, frankly, and check things out, what we've got there. It's a lot of great free content, some decent quality conversation. Everything via Podomatic has been post-produced, so you can expect to have a decent quality listing experience, much more so than the raw feed that we put out here via YouTube, of course. And just once again to remind listeners, we are working on making that transition over to DLive, having some technical issues at the moment, trying to get the bugs worked out, but once we can have that set up, we will be happy to pull the plug on this operation or end of things over here, bidding adieu or adios to YouTube. Some have referred to as JewTube, and by the way that they've nickel and dimed us down to now completely zero in the credit department, makes me certainly wonder what's going on there. They're welching. They're really welching. Whereas in other instances, it's a bait and switch with operations or platforms such as Appear.in, a total bait and switch approach to doing things there. So I don't know who to talk to, frankly, with respect to these class action suits, or however they are referred to once again in legal parlance. Real Randy Ross here, episode 61, was quite something. He did not show. He was back in touch with us, and he might pop up and appear as a guest here in a formal sense at some point. But it's not like he totally hates us or anything. It's just he's got some issues going on, having to deal with in his life. But the interesting thing is that via Podomatic, we have got his show chalked up. I think it's like over 6,000 views or plays now, which is incredible. Most of the shows that we do post on Podomatic, typically, I don't know, it really ranges. A good show will get, maybe 500 views or something like that. Over on YouTube, some of our biggest shows got a couple thousand maybe. That's about as far as things go. Once again, this Al Borealis conversation really took off, so it's quite amazing the momentum there and the support that we managed to see occurring over there. So it's really a reflection of the followers that he has accrued or managed to attract to the content that he produces on a semi-regular basis. Great show, Forum Borealis. Ghost Seekers Paragon, Deborah Rosso, 62, James Heydrich, one of our... I hate to skip over all these people so quickly because they do deserve a little more mention or acknowledgement than what it looks like we're going to be able to do here. But Mr. Heydrich, once again, one of the benefactors of our charity, I guess is one way of putting things. So, having received a little Secret Santa support there this past Christmas, John Ford, Carolyn Rose Goida, and Raw Rights out of Poland, trying to repatriate his family back to Canada. Really find himself in a bind at the moment. Satori D, Daniel De La Rosa, episode 66, The Infinite Imaginarium and Beyond. I mean, he's like a real life type seeker for sure. A shaman, perhaps. Psychonaut, I think, is one way of referring to people such as Daniel, who is very much committed to the study of consciousness and exploration of the mind, along with things like social media, open sourced technology, blockchain, all those sort of great things he's able to comment on, and it's quite he was one of the, in fact, first people who helped to get the ball rolling here with respect to pirate radio podcasts. AWOL Aaron being another. We haven't seen much of Aaron lately, which is really too bad. It's unfortunate that he hasn't made his presence more actively known. Apparently he's off trying to pursue some sort of comedy career of some sorts, from what I understand. I don't know how well that's going to go. Wish him all the best of luck, but the one video I saw, I thought that he was more of an MC type personality than anything. I didn't hear too many jokes with the setups and punchlines that one would expect with a stand-up comedy routine. Maybe he'll get a hang of that a little more as time goes on here. But, looking forward to both Daniel and Aaron. Anytime we hear from them, it's always great. So, Americanuck Radio 67. I mean, there's just so many folks. You'll have to go into the archives and check things out. We're out of time here, pretty much, as we scroll up through what we have assembled here and put together for people's perusal and listening pleasure, courtesy of Podomatic.com. Once again, thinking of perhaps leaving things at episode 99 and and making a shift over to archive.org simply because Podomatic really seems to be dropping the ball at the moment, not able to get their technical game together in the sense of clients not able to edit their uploads. I'm not sure if we're the only one here or not, but it is a little stressful, of course, so there's no sense in us worrying ourselves too much about all this business. What's the point? I think we've pretty much run the gamut here, though. Any last things you'd like to let people know about, or comments you'd like to add from your end, Fox?
Keep an open mind, man. That's where it's at. That is where people need to be, because I feel like people are becoming more alienated and trapped inside of their own bubble. I don't know. The universe is a forum. What do you think, dude? You have any additional ideas to submit to the forum of life before we close out on this night?
Well, I think you're right about what some refer to as echo chambers, and how so many of us cannot stand listening to alternative views other than the ones that we hold ourselves so tightly and are so, fixed to in such a seemingly solid way. I myself have been kicked out of a handful of Facebook forums. The Asia Institute is one. I do suspect they are some sort of a CIA front of sorts. If people want to look into that a little more. People out there throughout the so-called anonymous community, those with technical skills, able to maybe investigate and probe a little perhaps into how they've got their operations set up and are running there, the Asia Institute, via Facebook in particular. So I cannot even access their group anymore. It's really odd, too. I had nothing said, no reason, no explanation, not a word. Just totally stonewalled. So, which reminds me of one of the notes that I'd made here, actually, things I was hoping to talk about a little bit on today's show, is ghosting. Not only ghosting, but shadow banning, and how we find shadow banning so prevalent throughout social media, supposedly. And I believe, as you were talking about earlier, the algorithms. You talked about algorithms and how that really is throttling people's reach down in a big, really, significant and major way. So that's one of the promises that Minds.com offered when they first launched. And let's not forget, they were our first show. So that was quite, I would say, auspicious. It was quite something. We're really happy to have had that been the case, and have been watching their evolution since their launch a couple of years ago. And hopefully they can make the transition now with the tokens that are set up. Not too complicated. I think they've got the on-chain and off-chain, the two options are in place. So, bit of a learning curve here for folks. Most people, of course, some able to pick up on things a little faster than others. I'm not sure why you've been, with Steemit now, you've been put on a waiting list. I just actually got on board with them a couple weeks ago with Japhy Rhyder. Was it Japhy Rhyder or WPRPN? We had that account set up, one of the two, and there was no waiting list there. And in fact, I don't have a spy phone, to tell you the truth. We're just running strictly off what the wife has here. And, because I'm just not, for multiple reasons, not down with the spy phone thing. It does really work and come in handy as far as managing work and business, though. In our case, booking classes and dealing with students, parents, classes, and schedules and that sort of thing. So it saves a lot of money, though, saved too. There's two of us here, obviously, and if every couple, only one person had a spy phone, that would really kind of cut down, I guess, wouldn't it, on the cost that they'd be constantly doling out every month. So, yeah, but I mean, I touched on a lot of different issues there as far as the social media is concerned, censorship. Ghosting is, I'm not sure, do you know how that works exactly, Fox? You know what that's all about when people ghost you?
I haven't had that issue yet.
Well, maybe you have. It's when people basically just ignore you. You've talked to them in the past and you seem to have a rapport established and working on building up more of a relationship of sorts, and then they just decide not to get back to you anymore. They just ignore you. Ghosting.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much everyone in Maine. I mean, yeah, dude, but I've learned to deal with that by kind of expecting it in a way.
You take the good with the bad, I suppose, and well, you learn who your friends are and who's not. So I'm not even going to name any names because what's the point? People can figure these things out on their own. There's been others, of course, people like William Ramsey who've been really great. I mean, he's quite the opposite, where he's more than happy to visit us again and return as a guest, take the time out of his busy schedule to drop by and engage us here. So we got him booked again for June. So he's certainly not ghosting us. And I'm not just talking the occasional guest either necessarily, but yeah, just people in the general the milieu, the social media world, online, Facebook friends that turn out to be a little dodgy. Maybe they're part of some the military industrial like intelligence gathering operation of sorts, let's say. That sort of thing. So, but what can you do? We can't hide under our beds, or like some people want to maybe kind of cloister themselves or completely cut themselves off from the larger world, whether via social media or what have you. So, we got to engage the world head on. And, there's doesn't mean that you have to charge into things like a bull in a china shop either. But using hopefully smart and wise decisions, navigate your way through these often tepid and tumultuous waters that we find ourselves out here riding upon throughout these high digital seas. So, on that note, and I know, I could carry on for some time here, but we're going to be back here in a regular time slot. This, of course, just kind of spontaneous, off the cuff, kind of necessary way of doing things, frankly, having to squeeze in our 100th episode here because we felt it was necessary to have this retrospective look at our history, the shows that we've covered, our philosophy, where we've come over the course of the time that we have been around and online, as well as where we're going in the future, of course, too, let's not forget. Upward and onward. That's where we like to take it. We'll take the good with the bad, though, and just make the most of everything that comes our way, whether it's helpful or not. So, there's a few other notes here, and I really don't want to spend much time. Careful with valerian, people. You got to be careful with valerian if you're on, like, for example, any painkillers or other just basic prescription drugs. They don't always mix well, necessarily. I'll say that much. As well as, I wish it was easier getting melatonin here in Korea. I mean, come on, people. So, Spreaker. It's another something or another that I was hoping to maybe get into a little more with you. Maybe we can save this for the after show. We can talk a little bit more about things like valerian and melatonin as well. Facebook jail. I mean, Christ Almighty, some real big happenings though in the Facebook world, I guess, with respect to Zuckerberg and data breaches, and haven't really looked into that as much as I perhaps should. Maybe we can save it for next week when we have our midweek muck around. Our second installment is what we're looking at putting together there, barring any unseen technical interference or personal issues popping up in the meantime from a health standpoint or what have you. Have you heard about what's happening in the world of Facebook, Fox? There's been some major happenings there.
Yeah, I use Facebook as little as possible because of what I know about the website. We've been trying to warn people to jump over to the alternatives like TSU and Minds and World Truth and shit just to have an NSA free, corporate free, data breaching free version of, just everyday life online. But yeah, dude, yeah, tell us all about it, man.
Well, we'll save that more for the after show. I think people can easily enough using DuckDuckGo. I don't know why Alex Jones always talks about just Google it. That to me doesn't make any sense. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, is Google paying you to say this or what? DuckDuckGo, folks. Speaking of, right to privacy online, and even with Minds.com, you're talking about how, well, taking that route to avoid the ever watchful eyes of the NSA and whoever else. I don't think it's so much that as it makes the fuckers work a little harder if they feel that they really need to spy on us and collect all this so-called metadata and have it stored, that it just, once again, it just wastes a lot, so many more resources that would be better spent, of course, elsewhere, focusing on real targets like Lauren Southern. Really? I mean, people like that, even myself crossing borders in Canada 10 years ago, the same bullshit. Simply because, it's like, you don't go along with their demands, as it were, and so forth. You end up in the special line, I guess. You don't. It's just such bullshit. But with her crossing, going into the UK, she was detained and apprehended because she was on some sort of terrorist watch list, if you can believe that, which ends up being just a total assault on freedom of speech, not reflecting well. It's a pretty poor indication of where things stand at the present moment in the UK as far as their respect for freedom of expression and freedom of thought. These people they're Orwellian thought criminals. Dankula, whatever you think of his political views, I mean, I don't really identify with the guy in a big way as far as that goes, but I support his right to create parody. Hashtag gas the Jews. Like, give me a break. It's a fucking joke, people. God damn it. I mean, yeah, there's a war. There's a war for your minds and on consciousness, of course. That's been going on for a long time now. So who knows where things will actually go with the 5G control and command grid, the matrix, however you want to, phrase it basically. But it certainly is full spectrum dominance, essential to the full spectrum dominance agenda that has been in place for quite some time now. I'm willing to put my life on the line, though, and go down, die as a martyr. Why not? For me, it's a question of why not. Certainly not into this cowardiceness business. Hiding away, remaining silent when you should be speaking out. Yeah, they came for the Jews. Are you familiar with that That story, how they came for the communists, but I wasn't a communist, so I didn't speak out. They came for the trade unionists, I wasn't one of those, so I didn't speak out, and so on and so forth. They came for the Jews, finally, and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't speak out. Finally, they came for me, but it was too late. There was no one else to back me or support me, because I didn't bother to back or support any of them when they needed my help.
Or insanity is a minority of one, where no one would have supported you or backed you anyway because nobody believed that they were coming. You see, you could have warned the communists, you could have warned all of these various groups, but nobody would have listened to you. So there's always two different sides of that argument, but you always want to be ready and try to help out each other, at least people who are willing to listen.
So in that sense, I guess, yeah, we are the canary, the proverbial canary in the coal mine. More or less entering into the podcast game. I'm not sure if you say a little late or not, but certainly not as early as some others. I initially had years ago been told that it might be an idea for me to put a podcast together, but it was more just a twist of fate, really, and to certain events in my life kind of leading to and eventually drawing me to the point where we are now, where I was left with little choice. And besides, I've got so much time on my hands. Well, I have enough time on my hands that I'm able to delegate and set aside it's volunteer that amount of my life to doing what I can to, once again, helping to facilitate and getting the word out as far as a multitude of issues are concerned, or once again just flat out allowing the platform to exist and be in place so that people can have their voices heard. That's really the bottom line here, folks. On that note, though, I think we are going to call it a wrap. We're going to sail on out of here. Episode number 100. It has been it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for riding shotgun there, Fox. It's I wouldn't have done it without you. I really am not into this whole business of hanging out and just talking to myself. So and it's so much appreciated. We will talk to you in the after show.
Yeah, definitely, brother. Anonymous radio never worked on my own. Like, I don't hold my own dialogue very well, so it works both ways.
I listened to some of the shows you archived, and I really, some of the interviews you did were great. So, you should keep it up for sure, where you can manage, or we can pool our resources and, dare I say, talents together, so that we can produce something on a semi-regular basis, hopefully at least once a week, where we manage to really put together some decent quality product. On that note, though, friends and mateys, until we meet again out on the high digital seas, on behalf of Captain Long John St. Clair and all the rest of the crew here on the Robin Hood, I'm your host, as always, the ship's Chief Communications Officer, Japhy Rhyder.
Aye now, there we be. Having carefully looked over each of our navigation panel instruments, checking every level, switch, dial, cable, knob, and pulley, by all accounts and indications, we indeed see it's time once again to drop anchor inside Mystic Bay and draw an end to another week of Pirate Radio podcasts. Remember, if you're looking for a little more lively online action, keep in mind we've likely got yet another great free-flowing Rogues Gallery after show coming up for the next hour in either Skype, Google Hangouts, or Appear.in.
Also, If you've in any way enjoyed or found yourself benefiting from the shows we've tirelessly produced over the past 2 years, you might want to drop by our Patreon tip jar page and lend a little support. Half of all network donations go directly to charity. Help to keep those numbers growing over on Patreon, and we'll be able to extend even more of a generous pirate hand. Looking forward now to the balance of 2018, we're still not quite yet booked. So if you yourself have a new, novel, intriguing, or otherwise underreported idea, unique individual, or pressing item in mind, be sure to either drop us a line directly over on WPRPN.com or fire us a quick email via pirateoneradio@gmail.com. We're always open to exploring fresh creative suggestions, intriguing guest ideas, cutting-edge discussion topics, and captivating themes. You can further embark on your own personal pirate journey by either liking, commenting on, subscribing to, or just following us via virtually any mainstream social media platform, including Twitter, Facebook, Google+, or Minds.com. So don't forget to become engaged. Until we meet again out on the high digital seas, I'm your host as always, the ship's Chief Communications Officer, Japhy Rhyder. Tally-ho.